Hey folks, welcome back to Leeds Gamer. It is apparent that Leeds United will not be signing Wolverhampton Wanderers Norwegian international striker Jorgen Strand Larsen amid reports that Leeds' overall bid of 40 million has been surpassed by a overall bid of 50 million by Crystal Palace, who, on the flip side of all that, are likely to sell their main striker, Jean-Philippe Mateta, to at least partially fund that deal. There are a lot of mixed feelings by different Leeds United fans on this. My own take on it is I think we've dodged a bullet in terms of the transfer fee. Do I think that Strand Larsen could be a good player? Yeah, possibly. And at a team that gives him better service, then he could go on to be a player that, could be someone that can score somewhere between 10 and 20 goals a season in the Premier League. But in terms of his current value, based on current form, is he worth even 40 million? No. To me, at the moment, he's playing like a 20 million striker. And I think that if Leeds had gotten the deal over the line for around 40 million, I think they're getting caught with the pants down. I think there will be transfers that Leeds can make later on this summer where the money will be better spent. Part of my reasoning for this is because I do believe that we will stay in the Premier League. I think we only need 4 more wins and 2 more draws. And I think we stay up. And I think we will do that. So I think that once we do that, then potentially we might be in a position to get someone that's maybe even a better striker than Strand Larsen for maybe even a similar fee. You've got to bear in mind that if we'd have signed Strand Larsen for the figure that was being rumoured, it would have been a transfer record spend for Leeds United after we spent about £35 million on Jorgen Rutter. So, in context, for a difference of about maybe 4 or 5 million, is Strand Larsen a better player than Jorginho Rutter? It could be argued that the two of them are slightly different in terms of profile. One of them is more of a number 9, the other one's maybe more of a number 10. But in the context of it all, is there a £5 million difference between Jorginho Rutter and Jorgen Strand Larsen? I don't know. I think that Strand Larsen is ever so slightly older than Rutter. Not by much, I think he's only about a year older. So both of those players can probably improve quite a bit more if coached right. As you can see there, the Premier League stats for this season suggest that Jorgen Strand Larsen has played 21 times and he has got just 1 goal and 1 assist. And that's in a team that have only scored about 15 goals this season. It's not great, whichever way you look at it. But apparently Crystal Palace are willing to sanction the amount of money that's required to get him. And maybe that's partially because they know they're going to get a chunky fee for Mateta, and they've already pocketed about 20 million for Gay. So Palace have money in the bank. And you would have to assume that they also have some PSR wiggle room as well, which, according to Leeds director Robbie Evans, Leeds don't. I personally think that Leeds have the money. I think we have a very wealthy ownership now, but I don't think that unless we can potentially get away with maybe about a £10 million kind of structure, if you like. You know, I think that might be what we have got in terms of wiggle room for PSR. So whatever deal we were putting in place, potentially, for Strand Larsen, I think would have been nothing more than £10 million before the end of June cut-off, and then the rest of the deal be structured over the next 2 or 3 years or whatever they got in mind. You've then got to kind of look at it and think, well, you know, you're not signing Strand Larsen just to keep Leeds in the Premier League. You're signing Strand Larsen as to be your future main striker. He's younger than Metcher, he's younger than DCL, he's younger than Pirro. Or is he younger than Pirro? He might be about the same age as Pirro. But either way, I mean, if you're comparing him just to DCL, he's younger than DCL. So you're almost looking at someone that can potentially come into the team and do the job that DCL does, and maybe even better for longer. So again, maybe that's another argument. If we go on to his Wikipedia to start with, looking at his history there, 6 in 48 for Salzburg, 24 in 67 for Groningen in the Dutch League, 17 in 69 for Celta Vigo in La Liga, and then 14 goals in 35 appearances in a loan spell at Wolves, who then made the deal permanent, and he's played 19 times this season and got 1 goal. From an international point of view, he's only got 4 goals in 24 games. That might not be helped by the fact that obviously Erling Haaland is potentially ahead of him in the pecking order. But 11 goals in 16 games for the under-21s, obviously a decent record there. So in the Eliteserien in Norway, he ended up with just 10 goals in 59 appearances in all comps. And then in the Eredivisie for Groningen, 27 in 71. For Celta Vigo in La Liga, 18 in 74. And then for Wolves, 20 in 61. You've got to say that he's, you know, I mean, if you're taking goal scoring records in isolation, he's a streaky player, isn't he? You know, he's not bad. But in terms of an overall club career record, 75 goals in 264 games doesn't really scream amazing. If you just take league into consideration, 62 in 237. Again, he's not setting the world alight. So you then have to look at that kind of goal scoring record and think to yourself, you know, 40 million from Leeds, 50 million from Crystal Palace. Is he worth that? I don't know. I think it's incredibly dodgy. I mean, the value of a player should really reflect his performances. But the problem is, on the flip side, you can't do that because you buy the player, then they perform. So you're only basing it on performances for previous clubs. And unfortunately, that doesn't always translate at a new club. So then on the flip side again, if he played for a team like Leeds, would he get more service? Would he therefore then become a better player and a better striker and a better goal scorer? Possibly. At Wolves he's playing at the worst club in the division this season. That's always going to be a struggle for any player. But ultimately, Leeds signed DCL and Mecha on free transfers, and both of those are scoring comfortably more than Strand Larsen, at least this season in isolation. Again, you can see the stats there, that he's done for Norway. Obviously 2023 was a good year for him. He got 3 goals in 7 caps. Easily his best year from an international point of view. So that's about all it is written on his Wikipedia. If we come out of that and go onto his transfer market profile, and it says new arrival. That's because he was just signed after getting that loan spell, isn't it? So you see, part of that fee might be to do with the fact that they're having to pay out his contract. So his current Wolves contract doesn't expire until the end of June 2030. And his market value was 40 million euros at the end of 2025. So 40 million euros, you're looking at around maybe roughly maybe 35 million pounds. So Leeds were technically offering, from an overall package, maybe only about 5 million pounds over his market value. And Crystal Palace are offering considerably more. That's if all of these, figures and rumours are to be believed, of course. So, I have to apologise. My logo's a little too big on the right hand side in the middle there, but berate, it's not harming anybody. So 21 appearances in all competitions, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 yellow cards. Been in the starting 11 for 61% of the games available, playing 67% of minutes available, and has a goal participation of just 15%. Interested clubs include Crystal Palace, Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle United, West Ham United, and Borussia Dortmund. It's a lot of interest, isn't it, for a striker that is struggling. Again, this graph here kind of talks about his market value. That shows that he is just a centre forward, which at 1m93, you kind of expect that. So in terms of the history, looks as if Wolves eventually signed him for around 27 million euros. So roughly about maybe 25 million pounds there or thereabouts. And again, I kind of wish all these were in pounds instead of euros, really, but it is what it is. Total amount of transfer fee paid over his current playing time has been around 46 1.14 million euros. So roughly around maybe £42 million again. And I'm estimating what these pound figures are, roughly speaking. So he's been around a bit. He's played in a couple of different types of leagues. There's been a little bit of money thrown around for him. From an overall perspective here, all competitions this season, he's got 6 goals and 2 assists in 25 appearances, totaling 1,565 minutes. Like, it feels to me like we'd be signing a player that potentially would be a backup. Based on these figures alone. Obviously, when you spend that amount of money on a striker, you're not signing him to be a backup. You're signing him to be the number 1 striker. Number 2 striker at the very least. And to me, it still feels like a lot of money. So I really don't think Leeds have done a bad thing by not getting him. If it ends up being that, as you can see in this picture here, it focuses on Mateta and Strand Larsen. Because ultimately, Mateta is likely to leave Palace this month, and Strand Larsen is likely to leave Wolves to join Palace to kind of replace Mateta. I think the rumour with Mateta is he might be going to Nottingham Forest. So this is another one of these situations where you've got 3 players all kind of, 2 players kind of hovering around 3 clubs all in and around each other. Because Palace, Forest and Wolves are all within that bottom area of the Premier League table. And you can include Leeds in that mix as well. I mean, again, if going through that list of clubs that's just been mentioned that might have some interest in Strand Larsen, I mean, I'll just go back onto it. I didn't see any world beaters in that list. Palace are struggling for form and might end up being in part of the relegation battle. Forest are only 1 place above relegation zone. Tottenham, very similar to Palace, awful form in the Premier League. Newcastle, they're the only top half Premier League team that are seemingly interested. West Ham, they're in the relegation zone. And then Dortmund are obviously Bundesliga. So, it's not a vastly impressive list of clubs that are interested in Strand Larsen when you consider all of their positions. If Strand Larsen goes to either Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur or West Ham United, he's not improving his current situation from a playing, purely from a football point of view, very much. And I mean, certainly if he leaves, Wolves to join West Ham, he's really not in any better position. If he leaves to go to Nottingham Forest, he's really not improving the situation that much. If he goes to Leeds, he's not improving it massively. But out of all of these clubs that are in a bit of bother right now, I think Leeds are in the best position. I think Leeds are going to stay up. Because I think that we're in better form and we have a more positive feel at the club than what there is at either Crystal Palace or Nottingham Forest or Tottenham Hotspur or West Ham. I think all 4 of those clubs have got a very negative atmosphere about them right now. So that's my take on it, folks. I don't feel that bad about us not getting Strand Larsen if that's how it ends up being the case at the end of this month. I don't feel that bad about it. I really don't. I think that we've got enough goals in the team if we can keep DCL fit. And his fitness is not being as bad as it's been made out to be over all of the season that he was at Everton. There was a lot of seasons where he played at least 30 games out of 38. So I don't think his fitness is that bad. Mecha, bar 1 little injury this season, has been reasonably fit as well. And we've got 2 strikers that are in good form in terms of scoring goals. I genuinely don't think we're going to have a problem. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do please give the video a thumbs up like. Do please hype the video as well if it'll let you. And do please put your thoughts in the comments down below. You know, should we have pulled out every effort to get Strand Larsen? Do you think that we're better off without him? You know, yeah, put your thoughts down below regarding the whole Strand Larsen thing. I know that a lot of Leeds content creators have got mixed feelings on it. Might not imagine not being Leeds really wanted him. Jer at the Leeds View doesn't seem as bothered about it because he thinks that the transfer fee's a bit much. So yeah, you know, it does vary. So yeah, do please put your thoughts down below. Big thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.